Tenants discovered I was their landlord, and now my sisters and renters are demanding discounts, turning my home into a battleground. I bought my home right before the pandemic, a decision that forever changed my life. At 33, with an affinity for solitude and the comforts of introversion, I found myself holed up in this extra-large house, with way more space than I knew what to do with. Truthfully, I only managed to snag the place because the family was desperate for a quick sale, so I got lucky. The attic and basement were both finished, almost like they were designed to be apartments, albeit not fancy ones. The basement even has its own entrance but still connects to the rest of the house. Upstairs, there are 4 bedrooms and 2 baths, and the master has a walk-in closet that feels absolutely decadent. Then the world fell apart, and so did my sisters' situations. Both of them, 25 and 27, were hit especially hard when their own roommates scrambled back to their childhood homes, something we simply didn't have the luxury of doing. We'd all been in foster care as kids, aging out at 18. Bouncing between homes and social services, so moving back was never an option for us. That reality always sits with me. I hadn't gone out of my way to tell them when I bought my own house. In fact, part of me felt guilty for getting a head start and for not doing more for them back then. We grew up apart, different last names, never the kind of sisters who grew up together, but we found each other again as adults. So, when life hit them hard, I offered each a room at a price well below market rate, just enough to help with bills. I told them they'd have to provide their own food, it just made sense. They were both still juggling work and classes, and this setup let them keep their heads above water financially. Not long after, a girl they knew got evicted. Her landlord's family needed their house back. Without really hesitating, I offered her the basement apartment, setting the rent closer to market value, but still a bit under. It was the right thing to do, and, besides, it was only a basement apartment. Word got around and another friend of a friend reached out. He needed a place, so I offered him the attic apartment under similar terms. These opportunities sort of just snowballed. To make it all official, I drafted up rental agreements for everyone, detailing rules, rent, what happens if it isn't paid on time. I asked each of them to read their agreements and sign, then return a copy to me, keeping their own for records. For rent, I'd collect their checks on the first Saturday of each month. I always noticed they left the pay to section blank, and assumed it was because my name is so weirdly unique that nobody wanted to risk getting it wrong and bouncing their check. Turns out, that wasn't the case. Here's where it really all unraveled. There's still an extra room in the main part of the house, but that's my office, always locked up. One day, my friend, who knows my sisters, started chatting with them while they were all out in town. The subject of my extra room came up, and soon my friend was asking if my landlord would consider renting it to her cousin, an 18-year-old who'd be starting college in the city. I brushed it off, thinking it was just one of those little misunderstandings that happen, and made it clear the room wasn't available. It's my office, after all. She prodded about whether I paid for that room and, honestly, I laughed. Why would I pay for a room in a house I own? Her face fell. She apologized, explaining how tough it had been for her cousin to find a spot, and I did my best to be gentle but firm. Everyone's on lease until December, and if anything opens up, I'll let her know, but no promises. That seemed to satisfy her. A few days later, my sisters wanted the scoop. I told them exactly what happened, and when they heard her cousin wouldn't be moving in, they started pressing. They suggested I move my office into my bedroom or the main living room, to save money on rent for that extra space. I could only stare at them. Wait, did they really think I was paying rent for my own room? They did. I burst out, no, I don't pay rent for my own office. Did you not realize I'm the landlord here? They were floored. Apparently, they'd never actually read the leasing agreements they'd signed. The anger and disbelief washed over them. In their minds, I'd lied by omission, and apparently, families shouldn't expect to pay rent. I pointed out that it was never meant to be profit, it was to help cover bills, since I wasn't exactly flush with cash just because I own the place. I told them, a little sharper than I intended, that if they'd prefer paying full market rent for those rooms come renewal, I'd be happy to draw up new agreements. With both working now and having saved on rent for 5 years, they could afford it, and I was more than willing to oblige. They shot me daggers, claiming I was holding the rent over their heads. That confrontation didn't just stay between us. They vented to the basement tenants, which sparked a whole new mess. Suddenly, I had everyone knocking on my door, or, more accurately, acting weird around me. Now that it was out in the open that I was the landlord, my tenants started demanding I lower their rents, as though friendship with my sisters should earn them a discount. I don't think it ever really sunk in for them that they actually already had a bargain. Their current rate was well below market, even if more than what it cost to cover just their share of bills. I reminded them that their lease was up in December, and that any renewals would be at the same rate, no friends and family privileges. But if they didn't like that, they'd have time to look elsewhere. Suddenly, their good thing didn't seem so good to them. From my perspective, it was always fair and transparent. Letting them stay was never an obligation. The attic tenant, he's a little different from the others. He came to me, a little panicked, worried that I was planning to kick him out. His family cut ties over ideological differences, but none of that bothers me. If anything, I respect how he stands his ground. He must have actually paid attention to his lease agreement, because he always knew I was the landlord. But, he confessed, he never wrote my name on the checks because it really is hard to spell. Now, The whole house feels tense. Everyone's acting distant, and I'm the unwelcome outsider in my own home, the one place I built to carve out comfort, stability, and a bit of sanctuary from the world. I can't help but wonder, was I truly an asshole for not saying out loud what was in all the paperwork? Would I be one if, after all this, I decided not to renew their leases because of how hostile it's all become? The guilt of our childhood shadows every decision I make, but I still have to look out for myself too. Update 1. After taking some time to consider the events that had unfolded, and listening to sound advice, I made a promise to myself, I would never again rent to family or friends. There's just too much heartache in mixing personal lives with business. But now, here's where things stand. First things first, Mr. Attic. I wanted to speak with him alone, away from the others. I explained that I wouldn't be renewing the other tenants' leases in December, and asked if he'd be interested in moving into the basement at a market rate. He politely declined. He preferred the attic, said it was comfortable for him. He agreed it would be best if the others believed all tenants were being asked to leave, just to avoid unnecessary drama, and he even locked down his social media privacy. To top it off, he sent me screenshots from a group chat he'd been added to. That group chat revealed my sisters and the couple living in the basement venting about me, calling me inflexible and greedy. They strategized about not paying rent or only sending partial payments. The basement tenants even joked about losing their jobs so they could ask for sympathy and get a rent break. They called me too stuck up to be kind. As if that wasn't enough, my sisters and the basement tenants rallied their friends and families against me. I received a barrage of calls, messages, and nasty social media posts, all because of the rent and their version of events. I'd had enough. I made my accounts private, disabled messaging where I could, and sent a clear message to all 4 of them. If the harassment didn't stop, I'd be getting my lawyer involved. It didn't stop. After a night of restless sleep, I decided it was time for a face-to-face confrontation. I gathered everyone together for a discussion. My sisters sat there smug, the basement tenants kept exchanging knowing glances, clearly expecting to win some kind of concession. I laid it all out on the table, their actions, their entitled attitudes, their lack of appreciation, the humiliation they brought to me from my own family, had made me feel utterly unwelcome in my own home. I told them their leases would not be renewed in December. I even tried to be fair, told them if they found a place of their own before December, I wouldn't penalize them for breaking the lease. But any damage would come out of their security deposit, and if it exceeded the deposit, they'd be seeing me in court. I made it clear, I was done being understanding toward people who had so little respect for me, and, if I felt it necessary, I could break the lease myself. If that happened, they'd have 30 days to leave. Chaos instantly erupted. People screamed, insults flew, and for a second even Mr. Attic lost his cool, though his fury was aimed at the others for getting him kicked out when he did nothing wrong. He gave an Oscar-worthy performance, stomping up to the attic and slamming the door, but later sent me laughing emojis and confessed via text he had to struggle to keep a straight face. After the noise died down, I calmly presented a stack of rental listings for nearby apartments and houses. I told them it was time to start searching. Out of rare sympathy, I offered my sisters help paying for a moving truck, but told the basement tenants that they'd need to ask their families for help moving. Mr. Basement glanced at the prices, his eyes went wide in disbelief, and he asked if I was serious. Absolutely, I told him I don't control the local market, those prices weren't mine to change. I reminded him that their current rent was way below market rate, only because I had a say in it. In this area, a 1-bedroom goes for over $1,500 a month near shops and work. Right now, they're in a 2-bedroom for less. One of my sisters grabbed her share of the ads and broke down in tears, telling me she couldn't afford her own place, mentioning her student loans and credit card debt. At that point, I stopped feeling sorry. I reminded her I'd done her a favor, but she'd responded by turning a mob against me. If she hadn't been so nasty, I might have let her stay. I told them all they might want to consider sharing a 2-bedroom, and I walked out. Now, I hear nothing from them, they're giving me the silent treatment. My sisters spent the night in the basement apartment, and if I walk past that door I can hear them crying. Sometimes guilt tries to creep in, but I remind myself of everything they've done to me. Legally, if it comes to it, I can serve a 30-day notice since they're living inside my own home. I double and triple checked this with my lawyer, and it's spelled out in the leases. If they refuse to leave and want to drag it out in court, though they certainly don't have money for that, I've been given some tips from another landlord who once had to evict his own brother. While I can't put them out by force, I can make living there very inconvenient. I could start remodeling, take doors off their hinges, or cut off water or electricity to those areas, all under the guise of renovations. Purely for work, of course. They can't prevent me from making changes as the homeowner. It may sound harsh, but it would be in response to their escalation, and I actually do want to repaint and make some adjustments, because the harassment has only intensified now that they know I'm terminating their leases. I'm preparing to move quickly. My phone stays on silent these days, while I collect every message, voicemail, and email from my lawyer. I've begged them to stop but they refuse. Meanwhile, I asked Mr. Attic to let me know if he hears of anyone needing a place. He has a few friends seeking an escape from their own roommate or family situations. For my own security, I've installed cameras at the entrances and in the hallways, including the one leading to the basement. Every tenant has access to the footage relevant to their area, but I'm thinking about cutting off their access to the outside cameras, at least until all this resolves. They can't delete the footage, as they're only guests on the system, and everything saves to external storage. For peace of mind, perhaps only Mr. Attic will keep access. A few words about our family: there are no parents or relatives involved. My sisters have cut ties with their fathers and their families. My own father died a fool's death, and his own family shunned us both. Our mother's reduced to a jar of ashes collecting dust at the funeral home. That's how things stand this morning. Update 2. I'm so tired right now, but I wanted to share what's been going on. 2 of Mr. Attic's friends have agreed to take the bedrooms my sisters are currently occupying once they move out. I've spent time talking with them and they're honestly wonderful people. After one of our first meetings, I ended up with a flat tire, right as I thought my day couldn't get worse, and she stepped in and actually showed me, step by step, how to change it. She just explained everything while letting me take the lead. I couldn't believe I'd never changed a tire before, and honestly, it felt weirdly embarrassing. The harassment has taken a backseat after my lawyer got involved. He sent out cease and desist letters to everyone who contacted me, then took it a step further by filing for restraining orders and claims for slander and defamation. The internet was suddenly littered with posts tagging me, calling me an unfit landlord, slumlord, greedy bitch, homewrecker, you name it. According to them, I came onto Mr. Basement, which is so absurd that it's almost hilarious. I wouldn't touch him even if someone paid me. Trust me, these things take time to resolve, but the drop-off in calls and messages was almost immediate. As for the Basement couple, they've now been served their 30-day notice. Their part in all the lies and drama hasn't gone unnoticed, and they've cut off communication with me completely. I make sure they don't forget their deadline. I even leave post-it notes on their porch, ticking down the days. Today, I started seeing them take small things out of the house, which prompted me to write this. I can hear Mrs. Basement crying if I stand by the top of the stairs. I have a feeling they're probably moving back in with family, which is exactly what they were trying to avoid by taking my basement. Her mother is toxic, her father has remarried a woman who hates her, and Mr. Basement's family downright ignores her, or worse, tells her she isn't family because she won't give her boyfriend a family. The truth is, she can't have children because of medical reasons, and anyway, they're not even married. Then there's the group chat. Thank you, Mr. Attic, for those screenshots, which is filled with evidence of everybody feeding lies, keeping track of which version was given to which person. Mr. Basement even claimed that I came onto him and his girlfriend exploded, bombarding my phone and social media before rallying the others. What hurts is my own sisters chiming in, saying they weren't surprised by my behavior. That really stung. I've never done anything like that in my life. Speaking of my sisters, their notices have been given too. The 25-year-old is already packing up and moving in with her friends who apparently think I'm absolute garbage. Every time they stop by to help with their stuff, they glare or make sure I overhear their comments about me. She's been throwing away my food, literally dumping it down the sink or in the trash. I finally got a mini fridge for my bedroom. Now, at night, she screams outside my locked door. She's made it so impossible for me to work at home that I rotate between cafes and libraries, never going to the same one twice in a row, because she screams every time she suspects I'm working. The 27-year-old, on the other hand, is begging for me to let her stay. She can't afford to live on her own and apparently, there's no one willing to take her in. Her boyfriend, who I didn't even know existed, dumped her as soon as he got the lawyer's cease and desist. Turns out, he was part of the problem too but ran for the hills when the law got involved. According to Mr. Attic, she'd been outside plotting with him about moving in with her if he could help get rid of me, something about it being family property. Thanks to him tipping me off, I caught it on camera. Just so it's clear, my sisters are not moving in together. They each blame the other for everything. The same goes for the basement tenants. They all blame each other for what's happening, and of course, they all blame me for being pure evil. They each think that someone else forced me to take action. Cameras have become another battleground. Only Mr. Attic has access to them now, since they weren't part of anyone else's rental agreement. The others were furious when I revoked their access and tried to cover or mess with the cameras until I warned them of the consequences. Now, I just get middle fingers, aggressive stares, and all sorts of posturing for the cameras. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few things, but I can't sleep. I'm completely overwhelmed, trying to get everyone out, juggle work, find new tenants, and get the basement renovated, before renting it again. Update 3. But something big happened just a few days ago, and I haven't been able to process it fully. It left me shaken in a way I can't just brush off, and honestly, it's bubbling up inside me so much that I need to get it all out. First, let me answer a few questions that have come up with people who know my situation. Is Mr. Attic still performing his dramatic routine? Absolutely. He's been parading boxes in and out, most of them filled with things he's donating, selling, or they're just empty. He's taking this whole situation as an opportunity to declutter and redesign his space, as if it's some kind of artistic renovation. I told him if he wanted to paint while I'm redoing the basement, go for it. Of course, he keeps complaining to my sisters in the kitchen and any shared space, moaning that he wouldn't be forced into making plans if it weren't for them. Why don't I move into the basement myself and rent out the rest of the house to a family? Honestly, kids freak me out. Okay, That's only half a joke. The real reason is the pool. The idea of children being left unattended and something awful happening haunts me. The pool is communal, and I can't supervise it 24/7. Plus, kids are just loud, running, stomping, slamming things, shrieking. I work from home, and that kind of noise above my head would wreck my meetings and my sleep. From foster care days, I know that kids wreak more havoc than pets ever could. I've dealt with crayon art masterpieces, holes in doors from flying toys, even doors ripped off hinges. With kids, you turn your back for a minute and chaos happens. Did I get my restraining orders yet? Not yet. I'm knee-deep in collecting evidence. There's a mountain of videos with my 25-year-old sister screaming fits and all the harassment stemming from these people. Right now, I'm elbows deep in applying for an emergency one. Why don't I call the police about the screaming? My lawyer advised me to get all the footage I can safely, enough to build a documented history before getting official help. I probably will call the police soon, unless she quiets down, which, surprisingly, she has lately. Am I charging the sisters for coffee or shared things? They supply their own food and anything else they need. My personal stash is all in my room now, safely tucked away in my mini fridge. Am I worried about the bills skyrocketing? Each of my sisters pays an equal part of every house bill. The tenants cover their own electric and water, anything extra, they cover. For the rent, I include trash pickup, Wi-Fi, no cable, and heat. Alright, to the serious update. A while ago, someone suggested my recent flat tire might not have been an accident. The idea made my stomach churn, so I had a friend look at it. He confirmed my fears, the tire was slashed. Then he took a look at my car's whole body and found an air tag, tucked in the bumper. We don't know who put it there. He admitted tracking devices weren't really his area, so I took the air tag straight to my lawyer, who handed it over to the cops. Now I'm nervously waiting for their response. Since then, my 27-year-old sister has turned into a bundle of nerves, asking nonstop where I'm going, what I'm doing, who I'm seeing, something she never did before the air tag went to the police. She tried to stalk my social media, but I've blocked her and a bunch of others. She keeps asking why she's blocked, demanding I unblock her because we're family, there shouldn't be secrets. She begs to stay, pesters me about finding replacements, and is actually demanding I apologize to her ex because I scared him with the lawyer. I reviewed my camera footage but couldn't find anyone near my car, so the tracker must have been planted somewhere other than my driveway. The camera coverage is too good at home. Whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. Then, the 25-year-old started to act out, leaving messes all over the kitchen and common spaces. Dirty dishes everywhere, sometimes for days. Clothes abandoned on the furniture, muddy sneakers in the hallway right by the stairs, just waiting to trip someone. I snapped photos and reminded her, any mess left for me to clean will come out of your deposit. After she finally did her dishes, I snatched them and put them all in my room. I never promised dishes in their lease, anyway. Now they're stuck using paper plates and sulking about it. But that's nothing compared to what happened next. See, Mr. and Mrs. Basement never got keys to the main house, nor did they have camera access, except for the one facing the door between the basement and the hall. The point was privacy, and I kept it that way for a reason. Earlier this week, I worked a half day from the library. I came home expecting to find the house empty, knowing my sisters were still at work and Mr. Attic had left in the morning for a weekend getaway, although he told the others he was apartment hunting in the next city. Instead, I opened the door to find Mr. Basement inside the main house, alone. My heart slammed in my chest. I called my friend immediately and kept her on speaker as she rushed over. I demanded to know what he was doing there and how he'd even gotten in. I left after my sisters, and I know the house was locked. He dodged the question, only saying he needed to talk. I'm almost certain one of my sisters slipped him a key. He tried to coax me further into the house away from the door, asking me to sit down, getting way too close for comfort. That's when he started pouring out his sob story. Their families are monsters, he wants another extension. He swears if I give them more time, they'll be able to get a real place on their own. When he said he would do anything for another extension, he stepped closer, eyes fixed on me, and launched into this bizarre, gross monologue about how he knows the way I look at him, how he could give me a good time, how she wouldn't even need to know, and he knows I'm lonely. The irony is, yes, I've been single longer than I've known him, by choice. And for good reasons, rooted in old wounds from growing up. I'm happy on my own. I told him flat out, what he was suggesting was vile and manipulative. If he ever caught me staring, it was probably at the weird 8-dot tattoo on his shoulder because I just like figuring tattoos out. I have some myself, and I'm always curious about the stories behind them. Attraction? Not on your life, the man is a pile of walking red flags. And, just for clarification, even though I refuse to list any of this to his face, he smokes, vapes, blazes up, hates animals, wants a litter of kids, explodes at the smallest things, is jealous of other men, he even trash talks guys who work out because he failed at being a gym bro. On top of it all, he thinks he knows everything. He snapped at me, saying I wasn't pretty enough to play hard to get, that I was lucky he was even giving me the opportunity, and implied that maybe he'd bless me with a real reason to own a big house, aka, fill it with kids. As his attitude turned nastier, My friend pulled up outside and honked, leaning on the horn as long and loud as her car would allow. I took that chance to bolt. He followed me out, barking that I'd regret turning down his offer and that I'd die old and alone. Minutes later, 2 cops rolled up. Turns out my friend, as she sped over, asked her boss to call the police for me. I hadn't even thought that far, I was just focused on getting out. I explained everything to the officers, showed them footage from the hallway, blessed be the cameras, and told them he'd gotten into the house with no authorization. The police confiscated his key on the spot and gave him a trespass order from the main house. I sent everything straight to my lawyer, and by tomorrow I should have an emergency protection order in place. I told Mr. Attic the whole story, and, in a moment that genuinely moved me, he called in a literal small army from his community to come over. He let us crash in his apartment upstairs for several days and made it clear to everyone involved, he has my back now. Honestly? I think I might have just been adopted. Up until now, it always felt like I had nowhere else to go, nobody behind me. Suddenly I'm surrounded by these wonderful people, and they've offered to stay with me as long as Mr. Basement still occupies the basement, longer, if I need it. I stay put so it doesn't look like I could just go shack up in a hotel for the rest of the month, not that I could afford that anyway. I'll admit, I couldn't resist some pettiness. I sent the video footage to Mrs. Basement. She left me on read and hasn't said a word. The silence is deafening. The whole experience has left me shaken to my core, and I'm on edge waiting for confirmation of the emergency protection order. But at least now I have people ready to fight my corner if he tries anything again. I can't swap out the house locks just yet, never mind that I don't trust my own sisters not to hand him another key, but the locks on my own rooms are changed, with extra security just to be sure. On the bright side, with all these extra people around, my 25-year-old sister hasn't dared scream in the middle of the night. If you have any advice, I am more than open to it. Update 4. Yet every time I felt weak, your encouragement gave me strength. I know my last update worried a lot of you, so I wanted to reassure you, I'm still here. Let's start with the protection orders. I now have one against Mr. Basement. He is officially forbidden from entering my property or contacting me in any way, even through intermediaries like Mrs. Basement. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to secure one against my 25-year-old sister, because there wasn't an explicit threat of violence, even though the police have documented her screaming and I have home security footage of her banging on my door. The move-out date is set for July 26th. Nope, I hadn't gotten that wrong before, just double-checked and that's accurate. Now, Mrs. Basement initially kept insisting she needed Mr. Basement's help packing and moving things. I had to tell her, over and over, that he was absolutely not allowed on the property, not for any reason. I made it crystal clear, if I even suspected he was lurking around, I'd have the police there in a heartbeat. And that's what happened. Just last night, Mr. Basement got arrested for violating the court-ordered protection. He was in the basement at 1 a.m., supposedly packing. My new motion detectors in the backyard pinged my phone. He'd tried to sneak around the old camera he knew about. But I've since upgraded and planted hidden cameras, so he didn't stand a chance. When they realized, I was called an asshole for not telling them about the updated security. Mrs. Basement claims I seduced him and this whole mess is my fault because I led him on. She hurled all kinds of nasty allegations at me, insisting that he only offered to help because they didn't want to move back in with family, that it was a sacrifice to keep her safe. There's no talking her down from that imaginary hill, so I simply keep my distance. Now, her family helps her pack, and if I happen to be home, I hear a barrage of belittlements from her side or scoldings from his family. Everyone blames her, for her boyfriend's infidelity, for losing the apartment. No one cares if their voices carry anymore, they're moving out anyway. Then, there's my 25-year-old sister. She only has a few large items left and spends most nights at her new place ever since she realized the house now has a constant flow of visitors, cousins, friends, rotating through to keep the peace. The kitchen is her battleground. If she tries to leave behind a mess, she's met with icy judgment. When she attempted to walk off with my living room TV while I was out, Mr. Attic and a friend blocked her way and called the cops. It's a newer smart TV, no way was I letting that disappear. I even gave Mr. Attic access to the security cameras because I worried for his safety. She still curses me out when our paths cross. She's tried sabotage too. She attempted to cancel my internet and labeled some of my mail with return to sender. Fortunately, my internet provider requests a unique code for any changes. She couldn't supply it, so they called me. My mail lady was confused by the rerouted mail and checked if I needed a forwarding address. I'm getting a lockbox for packages from now on just to be safe. My 27-year-old sister isn't faring much better. She isn't even looking for new housing. Mostly, she cries to me about having nowhere to go. She tried to change her bedroom lock. I shut that down, but I'm certain she'll try again. Lately, she keeps bringing some guy around, never offering a proper introduction. He barely emerges from her room except to hit the bathroom or microwave his endless supply of ramen and eggs. He won't meet anyone's eyes and rolls them if someone tries small talk. I'm getting ready with my lawyer to keep him from turning into a wannabe squatter. And as for this mysterious new guy, I have no idea if he's the rumored boy toy from before. When I heard about him, all I learned was a name, never a face, and since she won't introduce him, he remains a mystery. Now, Let's talk about Mr. Attic and his blown cover. Once everyone realized he'd been telling me what was going on, they simply blocked him from their lives. We figure they still believe he has to move out too, and probably see his tip-offs as a last resort strategy to stay. No one deigns to look at him anymore. Mr. Attic himself, well, with his blessing, I'll tell you his story. He's the youngest of 7 children, there would have been 10 if not for lack of proper medical care. His parents are deeply religious and steeped in their church community, they reject modern medicine, birth control, and non-traditional gender roles. You can probably guess where this goes. Until he was 16, Mr. Attic only knew the insulated world of homeschooling and the church. Then, he began sneaking out, craving knowledge. By 18, he'd caught up on childhood vaccinations and chosen his path, medicine. When he announced his intentions to his family, they tried to shun him into a sort of church internship for their family caretakers. He enrolled in real medicine classes to become a nurse instead. They resisted, hard, and made his life a minefield. Still living at home meant constant battles. Soon, he was sleeping in his car at campus. Then he met someone, a man who made his world bigger, brighter. They talked, laughed, danced. But when the family found out, they exploded. They kicked him out with only the clothes on his back, burned old pictures, and cut him out entirely. The relationship didn't survive the onslaught, the other man couldn't bear the pressure. With winter approaching, Mr. Attic had nowhere to turn. He couch surfed, just a night or two here or there. None of his friends could keep him longer, all lived at home or had tough living situations themselves. But then he heard about my place from a friend of a friend, and turned up on my doorstep one chilly autumn evening, asking timidly if there was any room left. He even offered to sleep in the garage. I set him up in the attic, picked up some clothes and a bed, and made sure leftovers were plentiful for those first months. I refused any rent until he got stable in his classes. When he was able, the rent just covered his essentials. As he got further in his career, it ticked up a little. Seeing him standing there, cold and ill-prepared in October, brought me back to the day I was locked out of my group home with only 2 small clothes, holey shoes, a battered old iPad, and $50 in my pocket. He once told me he never forgot my kindness, how I let him bring struggling guests who needed a safe haven, and how no one was ever made to feel less than at my place. I never pried into his story, just quietly tried to help. When he brought home someone the world deemed non-traditional, I didn't so much as flinch, just offered spaghetti and some warm clothes. He said that was the moment he knew I was his people. He always wanted to repay my kindness, but he said I never needed anything. I never saw it that way, I just wanted this place to be a soft landing. Now, Mr. Attic's invited me to a cafe and bar, places that usually serve the LGBTQ+ community, but he wants me to meet his friends. I think it's time to say yes, they truly are some amazing people. Update 5. His friends had found my posts and were reading some of the comments to him. He would turn red and beg them to stop, but one of the ideas from the comments stuck with his crew, Team Attic shirts. This morning, his friends strolled into the cafe with custom shirts for us, and we were all wearing them when he arrived before work. The second he saw us, he laughed so hard he started crying, and then he really cried. For a moment, I felt guilty, but he assured me he wasn't upset. He was overwhelmed by the kindness, grace, and amazing vibes from complete strangers reading my story. He told me it felt like he had a second community at his back. As for me, going to the cafe has become a highlight. I've been there twice now, and each visit has been unbelievably charming, enlightening, and unexpectedly wonderful. His friends, his whole community, are some of the kindest people I could hope to meet. They've spent hours teaching me, explaining their slang, and putting up with my never-ending questions with patience and humor. Also, the food at their place is absurdly good. They made me this pumpkin something, I could have died of happiness eating it. But then, there's the bad. I ended up having the 27-year-old so-called friend removed by police after he overstayed his welcome according to the lease. He just crossed the crucial number of days where any longer would have made him a squatter, and I get the feeling they didn't think I'd know that or be willing to enforce it. I made it clear I was calling the police if he tried to come back. I even called him by the boy toy's name, and he answered before darting back to her room. Clearly, she was still trying to work the original plan of having him stay, but I wasn't having it. He left with just a couple of bags and a laundry basket of clothes. As for her, she still hasn't packed a single thing. Then there's the ugly, 3 layers deep. First, my 25-year-old sister is trying to sue me for withholding inheritance. I can't tell if she's got a real lawyer, some bargain bin hack working pro bono, or if it's just her latest ploy to intimidate me into giving up money. I'll bring everything to my lawyer in the coming days. It sounds like she's after the house, never mind that our parents never left me anything, and that she and I don't even share the same father, so even if I had received something, she might not have been entitled to it. The police still haven't given me any information about the tracker that was found in my car. That unresolved note is gnawing at me. And then there's Mrs. Basement, who these days tries to hide a nasty bruise with cakey makeup and oversized sunglasses. I can't say for sure what caused it, but I have a pretty good suspicion, as do most people. Now, whenever she spots me outside, she immediately scurries indoors like I can't see her. Trust me, I see her. There's not much new to report or anything earth-shattering moving forward, but sometimes it just feels good to get it all out, to lay out the good, the bad, and the ugly, and remind myself there are people rooting for us.